Sorry, now I'm checking the radar.
Soccer.
Tornado warning west of Pampa.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's a big dose of it right there.
Okay, we're back. We're ready to roll. Call the meeting back to order now at 9:35. About that. Discussion or action items. First item, consent agenda items. We'll start there. Minutes of the prior meetings. We do have a couple of meetings worth of minutes. One had a correction, so we had an extra copy of it that was laid there in front of you. Do I hear a motion on approving minutes of previous meetings?
So moved. Second.
It's moved and seconded to approve the minutes of the previous meetings as corrected. Any additional discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Discussion or action items. Consideration of possible action on student transfers. You all have a list of student transfers within your packet that you got end of last week. Chair would entertain a motion to approve any or all of those student transfers.
Motion.
And a second.
It's moved and seconded to approve all of the student transfers as presented to the board. Any additional discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Consideration of possible action on hiring personnel for the 23-24 school year. Mr. Morales,
Well, you want to do these one at a time and then vote?
please. They're
Okay.
different
Different deals.
different ones.
I recommend that we hire the below personnel on a one-year probationary certified teacher contract for the 23-24 school year. Jarrell Washington, secondary teacher, Amanda Manross, elementary teacher, and Charity Merkel, elementary teacher.
Motion.
Second.
Moved and seconded to hire those three personnel under one-year probationary certified teacher contracts for the upcoming school year. Additional discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
I recommend that we hire the below personnel on a one-year non-certified teacher contract for the 23-24 school year. Cody Graves as a part-time CTE teacher.
Your motion?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to hire Cody Graves as a part-time CTE teacher on a one-year non-certified teacher contract. Any additional discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
I recommend we hire the below personnel on a one-year dual probationary contract for the 23-24 school year. Abigail Harris as the teacher coach and Garrett Townsend as the teacher coach.
Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to hire Abigail Harris and Garrett Townsend on a one-year dual probationary contract for the upcoming school year. Any additional discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Excuse me.
I recommend that we hire the below personnel on a two-year non-certified administrator's contract for the 23-25 school years. Ivan Altamirano as a technology director.
Do I hear a motion?
Second.
It's moved and seconded to hire Ivan Altamirano as technology director on a two-year non-certified administrator contract for the 23-25 school years. Any additional discussion?
Is that with salary, we're still
To be
negotiating?
negotiated.
We
Okay.
negotiate.
No.
Any other discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
I recommend we hire the below personnel on a two-year certified administrator's contract for the 23-25 school years. Teresa Childress as an assistant principal at Perryton Kinder.
Do I hear a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Moved and seconded to hire Teresa Childress as assistant principal at Perryton Kinder, two-year certified administrator contract. Any additional discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
And I recommend we hire the below personnel on a one-year certified administrator's contract for the 23-24 school year. Jamie Sloan as assistant principal.
Do I hear a motion?
Second.
Moved and seconded to hire Jamie Sloan on a one-year certified administrator contract for the 23-24 school year. Any additional discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Next item on the agenda, consideration and action on a resolution designating a construction delivery method, setting weighted criteria, and authorizing related action for the district's 2023 bond program projects.
We don't have any.
That's a lot of syllables.
We don't have anything that.
Say it again.
No, we don't have anything to approve on staff members to carry
Okay.
for this month. Questions we had that we developed earlier for you, that said Mr. Eastman, for you, Trey. One of the questions that we had is we looked at the different methods. We pretty well narrowed things down to two, as probably would assume we would as looking at all of the others. With the difference between the construction manager at risk and the design build. We know that with the design build, there's the need to hire an independent architect to work on the district's behalf. We're very unfamiliar with that. Can you kind of explain how that independent architect works? How much involvement they have, what the average cost is on something like, I realize it'll be a bid thing, but just kind of what you see on other projects of this approximate size?
We've been doing that on, I think, 3 other projects we've worked on within the last few years of hired a third-party architect. And, it's a third party, and that would be somebody you would hire direct. And what we had worked out, or the school worked out with them, was an architect that just basically did things on an hourly basis. And typically it's like $150, $160 an hour. And I really think it's only taken about, with their time, about 4 hours a month on average. Something like this, I think it could take maybe 8 hours a month on average. So you're talking maybe $1,000 a month. And it's a licensed architect. And I kind of think about it as someone who is going to be, like a lot of smaller towns that we work in, they don't have code enforcement, so that they're kind of in that role partially, but also they would be looking, as the plans get developed, they would be looking at those plans, to see if they have any comments or recommendations on that as you go along. And I think that would probably lean mostly towards, like handicap and ADA things like that. And then, as you go forward and move into the construction phase, anytime there's any plan changes, they're made aware of that. If there's any discussion but then on a monthly basis, they're sent the bill. They go over the bill, and they usually come out every month and inspect the job and approve the bill too every month to make sure that they feel like the bill is correct. Everything is, not anything out of order in the process. And I think you can, you could hire. I've known schools to hire some third-party architects. I think they pay about 2% of the project, and they get really highly involved. And here it's not. It's a lesser involvement than that. So it's a.
Is that just because we're doing basically a remodel instead of a new build? Because what I don't want to do is shortchange. If we need somebody in here looking at it more than 8 hours, 8 hours a month doesn't seem like much to me. And I know that it's not a huge project, but for our taxpayers, it is a huge project. So, just kind of a checks and balances.
Yeah, it's somebody, a guy, they're doing this, they've been around for.
Yeah.
They know what they're doing.
And these people would probably be from the Amarillo area.
Yes, we don't have a lot of travel.
Yeah.
And they have a lot of experience. And just someone sort of to look at things. But also here, what you have is you also have the city that's going to be inspecting that, which I think is good. So I think that's, John Gay, you have that, but you have that. But also, even if you go design build, we will hire the architect. But the architect, they have their stamp. They're obligated, to protect the owner too, regardless. And that's important to them. That they have a stamp. They take things well. And so not only do you have, you really have an extra architect involved with looking at things. honestly, I've done every construction method there is out there. And, you know, I've been involved for the reason why. And, you know, honestly, on this project, I think the design build leans probably the best method, in my opinion, is because one thing we've done just a ton of renovations in Texas Panhandle, and we know, or we have figured out is what needs to happen. And if we can direct the architect in that direction, you know, their architects are just pretty much self-minded.
That's a nice way to put that.
I think that's good, you know, but at the same time, you know, we deal with cost every day. You know, we have, we do, you know, maybe $1 million or more than $1 million worth a month, but you have to do the work. You gotta get that done. You gotta get bills. You gotta get the money in. You gotta get people paid. And you just do that until you know we know what things cost. And we can save a lot of heartache because when you go into a room, we know. You know, we have an idea. If we went down the road, you can design builds, you would have a budget based on what you would be planning to happen in an area. So as you start drawing the plans and work with architects and engineers, you're saying, okay, this is the direction we're heading, this is what we think needs to happen. And then if something's going to be different than that, we need to have a discussion. But we have a really good idea of what. You go into a classroom, what needs to happen on the wall, what needs to happen on the floor, what needs to happen in the ceiling. We have a really good idea of what needs to happen. And sometimes, I think architects have really good ideas, and sometimes that can work out, and sometimes you need a bit, say that, that's not the direct, that will not work in the budget. Have some kind of, I guess maybe the analogy goes, it's like, who do you want driving the bus?
Mhm.
In this instance, who's my builder would be like driving the bus?
Yeah.
Right.
So,
Since they're two very different looking projects, are we choosing different, or allowed to choose different methods for the new construction bond prop B
We
and A?
could,
I don't
but
think you'd want to, but I'm
personally,
just
I would advise
curious.
against it.
Just
I
curious.
believe we could, but I think that would be silly.
I
mean, to
agree,
be
but
able
I
to
was
do
just
that,
thinking,
yeah.
Since that is.
I never hadn't thought about that, but
We'll need
with-
more architecture than remodel. And
we'll throw
not necessarily
a big loop at.
architecture. Make it real complicated.
yeah.
Greg,
And typically, when we do things like this, we expect 25 to 30% to be new or new, and then the rest of it, so, but it's like,
how many of these architects that go out and do this third party, are there quite a few of those in Amarillo?
I know of, I really have two.
You know of two?
Yes.
So we would have to put out an RFQ for an architect before we
No, I
even
don't,
started this?
because of the cost of it, that's one thing you'd have to ask your attorney, is because of the cost of it, I don't know if that would be required or not, because of the cost just isn't that high. So if that would really be required for that or not.
Under the 50,000 is what you're
Because
saying?
I have seen Fred, recommend to hire architects and engineers without going for an RFQ. And I've never really figured out why that is. Sometimes why it's,
Yeah.
I haven't figured that out.
But you're saying not a percentage of the bond?
No, I would.
No, that'd be
That'd be
silly.
crazy.
See, I've seen people do that, and before it's all over, generally, those relationships end before the project ends, because of the cost.
Yeah. And I could see if there were, just 2 or 3, whatever folks that were able to do this in this area, if they're only spending 8 or 10 hours a month on it, they're going to be able to manage several projects at once.
Yeah.
So
Well, typically, there are architects that are doing other things too,
Right.
and then they'll do this also.
But basically, we the district would hire him, he would represent the district and watch what you and the other architect are doing in the build,
Yes.
kind of protect us.
Yeah.
Okay.
What other questions do people have?
And honestly, I've had, worked with some school districts and they honestly just ignore the third party architect. I've seen that. I think it would be better probably to have them. I've seen people go that far. Instead of where they're not doing that.
So things crossing my mind right now. What if there's a disagreement between the architect you hire if we go with a design build and the architect that we hire? What happens?
We would have to work it out.
Because I see two architects having, I mean, because there are people that just are way out there and I'm like,
Yeah,
okay.
I just, that's.
You hadn't run into a conflict like that where it couldn't be worked
I
out.
haven't run into anything like that. I mean, and I wouldn't go out there, you know. I wouldn't recommend people go that far. But if there's an issue that, you know, somebody needs to put their foot down, and that's what, actually what they believe, you know, they need to do it.
Yeah. That's what they're hired for.
Exactly.
Worst case scenario, the situation comes back to us.
And typically, it's all gonna come down to, it's gonna come down to, you know, like, do they think this is code? And you can go to the code and see what it is. You know, if they have this, you know, and then that, then, let's say if you start disagreeing with the code, then the place to go to is like the city of Amarillo, and go to their code people and ask them, what do they do? Or even the code guy, actually, people consider the code people in Canyon, Texas, is the toughest one in the Texas Panhandle. And I know those guys, and so now I just go down there and ask them what they think about it. They're all about training, well-trained anyway. And you can, you know, have that discussion, but I've yet to be exceeding something that, you know, everybody is professional, reasonable, and talk things through.
Okay, Greg, for our project, and you know pretty well, you know, the Proposition A and Proposition B, the design build, what actually will that give us? Will it give us smoother, faster delivery, better quality, saving of money? What would it do?
One thing, you know, in today's world, I think it will make it, and so one thing I think that needs to happen, particularly like the high school, there's a lot of rooftop units over there. I think it would be wise because of the lead time on those units, that we go out there and get, you know, just get those designed and get those bought, and get them going. And get those units coming, you know, and we can do that in design build. We can get that.
Happening.
If we think of anything else, it's gonna be a long lead time, trying to get those coming, to where that doesn't hold us up. And in today's world of design, one thing that's nice about design build, and, you know, Joseph, you know, has been doing some engineering, we've been doing projects years, just I can't get stuff sometimes, like, and particularly like electrical stuff. We've got some projects going that, you know, we've had to go to option 4 on some of the electrical stuff just to keep moving.
My brother-in-law's doing the
And we
same
don't
thing.
even know it's a problem, and then we try to solve that problem, and then that, or solve that supply issue, and then even that supply issue becomes a problem. So you know, there's been things that we've changed 4 times.
And the utility company has the same problem but doesn't tell us until it's. It's fixed.
So we can move quick, you know, it's not a 2 or 3 month process, it's maybe a 2 or 3 day process. Which is, in today's world, is a big thing. So, this thing changed over the last few years. We made things like that. We've been doing, I was telling James about it, we've been, over at Clarendon College, they want us to do a coffee shop over there. They were changing out some HVAC units, and they have some electrical equipment that we can't start on the coffee shop because the electrical equipment on this other project has never come in. It took a year and a half to get it. And I think if we'd have been involved in electrical, we would have solved that problem. We got that, done something besides this, what, a year and a half to get it.
Is it getting better on supply chain stuff?
In some things it is. And I'm hoping in the next year that, I'm hoping that, you know, get better. That's my hope. But,
So if we're, because we're gonna be doing some logistical things, we're gonna be moving classrooms around and kids around, all that kind of stuff.
Is there any point to trying to have all the materials pre-bought before we start a particular renovation project?
Typically, you know, let's say if we, you know, I would say we're probably gonna start, if we did start, I would start in the academic areas, like the high school, probably more on the north side, all those classrooms are. And then the elementary, you draw those plans up, a portion of the phase one. And we figure out what that's gonna be. Then you would draw those plans up, and you would, bid those out and get those prices back for that portion. And typically, when we get to that point, even before that, we might go out and actually try to, and I think we would need to talk to the suppliers, the carrier and train, whoever that may be supplying those units, and talk to those guys about the availability of things actually before we even start deciding what they might be, and actually try having those conversations. One thing I think is real important too is like the fire alarm system, get that figured out, and the access control, make sure, get that coordinated. And, just do a lot of those things, as the planning, the plans are being done. But when you get the first phase plans done, which I think would be academic areas, and then you get those prices back from sub and suppliers, and you start to write those, we get that approved, and bring that to y'all as a budget to be approved. You get that approved, then we go out and actually go and write the contracts with those suppliers and those contractors. And at that time, we're going to start telling people, start get that stuff here. Don't wait. Don't wait 3 months or 6 months to start ordering your stuff. Let's get it here and start storing it where you don't have a problem. Because let's say something would happen somewhere that causes prices to go up in the world or whatever. And I think the best protection against inflation is buy it now. Don't wait to think, that maybe prices will go down and maybe I can make a little money on materials. Don't do that.
The one thing you have the supply chain with, though, is the thing that's gonna limit how fast you can go at things. So you can get everything else in place, and you have the thing that's critical. So it would seem like if you can get your hands on it, maybe I've been living in the post-COVID world here, looking at how I get pipe and how I get steel products and that sort of thing. Just
Well, I try to tell them, let's get it bought, let's store it, we'll get you paid. We'll get you paid.
yeah.
Don't wait and play that game of thinking, well, maybe prices go down, before that. Let's do it.
That's right.
Let's get it here, let's keep moving. It's kind of, and I just think, the last several years, the world has changed. I think the design building in this instance is probably the most effective, the most cost effective. And probably the smallest.
What other questions?
Guys, I will say this, because I've been talking to Greg for a long time, and I talked to Joe also. I talked to them both. I think the beauty of the problems in Houston construction stuff is, guys, they see a problem, you have your guy right there to fix it. You're not waiting for another guy to come in later on and say, okay, now we can do this different, or we can figure that out. And that's what I'm seeing in this whole project is, how can we make it go smoother and faster and more economical?
Well, you want as little as possible coming to this board for input.
Right.
You want it to go as, and I hate this word because we've had it backfire on us a couple times, but we want it to go as seamlessly as possible. And we don't want the board involved. We don't want any way to minimize that communication, and that all that interaction is going to be, I think, the right choice.
Well, there's a juggling act there, right? I mean, you want it to go as smooth as you can, as fast as you can, without compromising the integrity, where we still have some kind of, again, we're the ones, the trustees of the money.
The money, yes.
Right, and you got to work those logistical problems.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, it's a juggling
You're
act
moving
there.
the kids around and
Yes.
everything else, so
Yeah.
Yeah, and so flexibility counts.
Yeah, we are ultimately responsible for how it turns out. So we don't need to be nitpicking, they can't find
If
X,
it
Y,
goes wrong,
Z.
then you're gonna be responsible.
Yeah, we're responsible, but we do need to oversee.
I think he meant you personally.
Yeah, it's me personally.
Yeah,
He's
your
like, don't let
construction.
Sarah pick you.
But I think the point that was left out there was economical, that I said. I think this may be the most economical.
Yeah, no, and I agree.
method also.
I agree.
And because our taxpayers want us to be very good watchers of their money.
Yep.
And we know what things cost. You know,
Well, yeah, y'all are the professionals, absolutely.
when we do estimates, it says, there'll be something priced down as low as 25 cents per square foot. There'll be some things that cost $800. And we know what those are. And we know where those need to be put. And frankly, we know where money needs to be spent.
Shouldn't be spent.
At least y'all would have the option to do it.
3 options.
So as a board this evening, we have basically 3 options that I'll toss out. One is to choose the design build, which I have a motion here, which I would read if that was the desire of the board, to choose construction manager at risk, or to postpone our decision to a meeting that we're probably going to have on personnel next week. Thursday, Friday, either one.
Yep.
I'd rather postpone it for a week, just let me chew on what I'm thinking here, but I'm open to what you guys want to do too, so.
I'm fine with waiting a week.
Especially since we have a new board member, who needs to get through all those numbers.
You know, we poured a lot on you.
Are we gonna ask them to come back also, or will we just vote?
I think, that's why I kept asking
I
if
don't
anybody had
wanna
any
waste
questions,
their time.
because I was thinking if,
Yeah, they're
I
not.
was thinking we're probably going to go to decide on this next week, that if you had any questions for Greg and Joe, now's the time to ask. 'Cause I don't think we need to ask them to come back up again next week and
No, I don't. I don't
Speak
think that's.
now.
sit out in
forever
our
hold
lobby
your
for
peace.
4 hours while we
What are, what
discuss the
are
state of
some
the
of your
union.
cons against the manager at risk?
Well, in design build, we would be hiring out and engineers. And if you do short term at risk, you all would hire the architect, separate. And basically, they're going to do what they're going to do. We're going to have some input, but probably not near the input we would have if we had a design build. And if, just basically, it's basically, you have the owner, and then you have the architect, and you would have the construction manager at risk, and then you get those plans and you deal with that. So, I just don't think that the plans probably would be go the direction of what would have been to try to hit the budget overall, and then we would agree with that, have to deal with that one. So, it's like, basically, I would say the architect would be driving the bus. We will not. That's some difference.
But you would pick architects that you guys have worked with on this type of project before, so you kind of.
We would pick Steve Butler that we've been
Right.
worked with, and he's, we work together with you. The big difference is probably the difference, and honestly, architects would like
Everyone wants,
I have no doubt.
everyone wants their expertise to be the most important
We only
part.
need one driver, yeah, and I understand those projects where it was like this, so.
Yeah, and we just, we just. A lot of renovations, we have a really good idea.
Yeah, sure. super creative architects, right?
That,
Yeah. They have really good ideas, a lot of them.
And,
That's
and
the
I-
easy
We
part.
looked at a softball field, looked like a Taj Mahal.
So, and that's kind of the difference. In today's world, you know, that just, if we're not, you know, people that get a, if we have a problem, we may have bureaucracy to get through that would take months rather than days. And some of them, I've seen jobs, some of them just stop for a
Yeah.
year.
Ooh.
Because they can't get it, so, and nobody will be willing to change. And
Well,
we're even working on it.
that's the scenario we can't really live with, because we're moving those kids around, and it's gonna be a logistical problem anyway, so we've got to be able to get schedules.
Yeah, I stole your design magazine about all these new schools and wards and stuff. None of them look very cost effective.
I think I've helped build a high school one time. Won a lot of architectural awards. I'm not gonna tell you how much more we spent for that.
Fancy.
Fancy, big glass windows and peak and everything
I want it
else.
to look nice, but I also want it to carry on, not be dated, not.
Well, I think the thing to point back to is I think we did a really good job restoring the junior high building.
Yeah, it's
The
classy,
prior architect
nice.
or engineering firm, I can't remember which one actually condemned the building. I don't remember exactly how that came out. But they condemned it, but I think junior high is a success, and
It's
it looks good.
very nice.
Yeah.
And, you know, my goal overall is, you know, to create a budget, and you head for that budget, you know, and but you want to make things nice. But your goal would be, in the end, that you can still hopefully put seats in the auditorium. You know, hopefully
Yeah.
that can happen. And
Oh, but they're like retro now.
and, you know, hopefully, you know, I actually think the choir and the band areas, you know, need probably some tweaking from where we are right now.
A little more.
And if we do the academic areas well, and watch our P's and Q's, you know, when we get over here, we're gonna have the money to do what we want to do over here too. And I just think that, you know, if we have that in mind and can all work together to make that happen, we've got a lot better chance of making that happen. If we're driving on the sideways.
If we're driving out like that.
After we do all the bid thing and.
Yeah, we still gotta do all that.
And, you know, is everybody gonna end up get everything they want? No, but probably most people will get most of what they would like to be. Gone somewhere. And if you don't know where you're going, you know, I think we're driving with us, we know where we're heading. We tend to, we have a map, we're planning to go down that road. And if you don't have a map, and if you don't have a playbook, if you don't have a destination where you're trying to get, you know, you're going somewhere else.
And a multicolored spreadsheet.
So what will your timing be on the Prop B?
On Prop B, well, when I look at that, and honestly, if you just sit down and look at the floor plan, I think there's gonna be first, I think the academic stuff should start first.
Oh, absolutely.
We've done other things that
Yeah.
it doesn't go well in the community.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I'm not saying that, I just-
But I think if we start the plans, first year's got to be a whole nother, review,
Assessment.
survey of everybody, but a lot of the classrooms, the walls are set, we're not gonna go start ripping walls out of classrooms. And, so, a lot of those areas are gonna be set, not too much is gonna change there. So I think that could be the first phase to be going on those sorts of things. And while that's going on, start to have the conversation about the field house and
Start planning that.
what that needs to be done, because honestly, I look at the field house and, honestly, my first question is like, they look really big. They look really big. And, it's like, and so I don't know what the answer is, but I think that question needs to be asked. So,
When that concession stand's gonna be under everybody's saddle, so.
Well, the bathrooms.
Yeah.
Bathrooms.
And then you've got a young mom on here that's like, you need a family bathroom, so dad can take daughter to the bathroom. But then, you know, more money, more problems. But, and a changing table in the men's and the women's.
Yes. But typically, you know, like a dressing room area
It's a thing.
is going to be, you know, as far as cost is gonna be,
Yeah.
So you can make I would think you can
Yes.
make the restroom bigger and have it train the restroom.
Yeah, that would actually be good.
You know, and save that out a little bit. And, you know, and I think that the field house is probably leaning towards the budget of being a pre-engineered building. Really, what I think the structure is probably going to be on it for budget purposes. And if we could make that more of a standard size, it would probably be a little more economical, and not make it 103 feet, 62 feet. Things work out better for 1,600, things like that. Just work towards those kind of, you know, things. And a little more sense in the cost world. So, but I think there's a whole conversation that's gonna have to happen, and that might take a few months for that conversation to happen, to get everybody on the same page.
On the same page.
And then ultimately, in the end, it's gonna come here and say, is this the $4 million before you take off and start going into construction. So,
What else? Thank you very much for waiting.
Yeah.
Guys.
We had a long discussion this
Waiting on
evening,
us.
so
Oh, yeah.
thank you for coming up and helping us all that you have thus far.
And if you want to come back, if you want to come back and look more.
If we have some questions, we could Zoom.
Yeah, and then there might be if we had some question, we had some, just pop in on a quick Zoom meeting and say, hey, we had these questions that came up with in the week, and I just hate to see y'all putting 5 hours on the road, if it's a 20-minute question.
Questions and
Yeah,
you
I can
call
send them
them before the
beforehand.
meeting and
yeah,
get those
if
answers.
we if we just have a little bit,
And guys, don't forget, these guys are working here quite a bit. I mean, they're at the welding shop over there, we're fixing to do air conditioning stuff. They're in Perryton
Yeah.
quite a bit.
If you happen to be.
And that would be when?
either
Not
Thursday
yet.
Thursday or
Thursday or
Friday.
Friday.
Be a noon meeting on either Thursday or Friday.
Okay.
We may have some personnel stuff to do for those meetings up, hire some folks, okay, we will have some personnel stuff.
We do.
So one of those 2 days, we just have to decide which day it's gonna be.
We're gonna meet every 20 minutes.
Every 72 hours.
Well, I appreciate you having us here.
Thanks for
coming.
Thank you. Thank you, Greg.
Enjoy. Come to.
Sorry, Richard took so long.
The car knows the way.
Okay, last item on the agenda is to set the date for next month's regular board meeting.
Thank you all.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank
you.
Thanks, guys.
Brittany, would the 20th be too soon, or would that, from a budgeting standpoint, do you
No.
need the 27th to work better?
No, I'd prefer the 20th.
The 20th? Okay.
Yeah, there's,
Give clarity on the tax base on the actual numbers.
is it the end of June or the
It's the end of June
July?
before we get the final,
All right, so none
isn't it?
No, I think it's the end of July because
End of July when we
that's
find-
when
Yeah,
I
that's
push off
when it's
that
out.
meeting where I explain all the changes.
Yeah, it'd be
But we
that,
have
Oh,
a
yeah.
budget workshop.
that budget workshop meeting
In
at the end of
early
July is when we get
August.
those numbers.
Early
Well,
August. It was
4.5% projected increase is not gonna create a problem for us this year, it's what again, it's next year.
It's what next year would be.
Yeah.
Unless the legislature comes up with something really stupid on property tax, changing the homestead, changing the whatever, that they run mandates back here.
Stupid is in the eye of the beholder, Wes.
I know. So 6:20, everybody good? 6:20? 6 o'clock? Noon will be in the middle of massive wheat harvest.
Yeah, massive.
Big.
I'll be trying to figure out how to keep elevators open because we'll be filling up.
Yeah.
Where are you gonna put it all?
And
Somebody's bathtub.
Okay.
I will be going to the
I-
school board conference in Fort Worth, the 21st through the 24th, if anybody wants to go. With me.
I have a feeling my employer may not allow that trip.
I don't think you can go, but if anybody else.
Okay, I declare this meeting adjourned.
The car is going.